So I've got my latest custom gel blaster build here. This is a unique one because I started off building this for an SLR, a Bohan SLR, the EMERBU SLR platform. And then through the build process, initially the gearbox had been working fine, and through some testing during the build process, it stopped. And I talked to my friend from Australia who is an expert, in my opinion, Corey, and right away he's like, "Oh, are you talking about an SLR gearbox? It's the trigger block." Apparently, SLR gearbox trigger blocks have some issues sometimes, and they break, and then the gearbox isn't going to work unless you replace it. And I didn't have an extra SLR trigger block around, so I thought, let's just change this up. Let's switch it to the M4/MK8 platform instead, since I had a gearbox for that around that I know works. Not sure how well it works, but testing it and stuff, it works. And typically I put notes on them if there's something wrong with them. And there was no note on this one, so I think we're going to be good to go. All right, so I had to change some things up, right? Because I had made this, I printed a handguard. And now when I print handguards or anything where there's going to be stress on it, so like a handguard or like a drop stock, I print those 100% infill when it comes to 3D printing. So they're solid plastic. Some people think that might be overkill if you're a hardcore 3D printer person, but to me, I think it's worth it. It's not that much more time. And so I went ahead and I already had this piece printed. And, when you print something like a handguard in general, but especially when you print it 100%, it does take a long time. So I wanted to use it. It took like 12 hours to print. So I had to reevaluate, readjust, figure out what I was going to do. This is going to be a CQB style blaster. Again, with the SLR, it was going to be a little shorter. Now, I could have tried to shorten this up, but since I had the barrel, the metal inner and the outer that fit that specific inner and that are made for that specific gearbox, I thought I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to figure out how to make that work. So I did so by kind of adding this extension piece to the handguard, right? This kind of has a little bit of a futuristic vibe. It's not done painting yet. It does need one more coat of paint. So if you're noticing anything, several of the things up here need one more coat of paint. Now, the tolerance on this was so tight that I had to make a special barrel nut. Now, of course, again, I printed that 100%, but also since I have extra receivers and stuff around from broken blasters, this is basically going to be a permanent mounted handguard. Now, the nice thing with these V2 receivers is even if this is permanently, mounted to the top of the receiver, you can still take that whole piece off and get to the gearbox and service the gearbox. That's what's most important. Anyway, you're just not going to be able to switch out the handguard because I'm going to basically make it so that this is a permanent handguard just to make sure that it's really secure and strong on there. Okay? So you can see where this is going to go on here, right? And then there's still going to be exposed outer barrel, which is fine. But what I wanted to do then is I made a recessed kind of suppressor here. And you can see what I did this time. And the top red is still a little soft, so I'm not going to touch it. But made a recessed suppressor with just a red kind of rim cap on it. So that's going to go on here. And there's just going to be a very small gap between this piece and this piece. And so I'm going to have that CQB style that I was looking for. I have a lot of these sights around, so I wanted to use those. And for CQB, I think that is a good style one. So that'll be there, some front sight, either this one or something similar. You can see I've already got rails on here. I'm going to go with this nice metal M-lock little grip rail on the bottom where I already recessed some nuts in there or some heat inserts so that can get mounted on. So that's the plan for that. You can see, again, nice little rail cover. This is going to come to right about here, so you're still going to have your little slope down. And that, again, is just going to help lock everything in place, kind of give it a nice, clean look, which is what I was going for with this one. Okay. Drop stock over here. So again, this was a short drop stock for the buffer tube insert here. So this receiver actually has a much longer one. So I did have to cut this right here, and that's just taped so it doesn't get painted because it is such a tight fit. So I did have to cut that a little shorter. Again, for me, not a big deal because I have extra ones of these. So we're going to have that drop stock. We're going to go to a CQB style kind of pistol brace. And then you can see I've already done a little bit to dress this up. I took that piece off, popped it off, recessed a little logo piece in there. And then again, to just kind of keep that same look going from the handguard throughout the blaster. That's just like a decorative kind of top piece there. On the receiver itself, wanted to incorporate that again. So incorporated a long panel here, and you can see I left holes for that pin that goes through. And then this hole is here for, well, really it's here just so I can put this selector switch back in, because you got to access it through this hole to screw it in. And then that'll just be capped on that side anyway. I might cap it with a piece that has a little switch on it that'll just be, you know, static. It won't move or do anything, but that's might be what I go with. We'll go the front panel where I'll put a little sticker logo. And again, this needs to get hit with some paint again. Went ahead around here. And I might go ahead and put some little screws and silver washers where I have these little holes, just because I have really short decorative ones. They're not going to go all the way through into the receiver and hitting the gearbox or anything. They'd really just be more for decoration. And kind of, again, give it a little more of that future kind of vibe, like you see, like these have the screws, and these are really small washers up here. But I could do something like that with those as well. So that's a build plan. Comes to performance, you know, we already got metal gears in here, high-speed motor, everything. Going to go to an M100 spring, which is definitely pushing it. Now, this is a new brand of spring that I've used, at least. This is from Amazon. So again, I showed you that Lancer tactical ones are available on there, but if you go to my Amazon list and you look under springs, you might see this one as well. This one is a brand called Chicon, which really, that's just the seller. You can see this is an SAH spring made in Hong Kong. Nice M100 spring that's going to be in there. So that's pushing the limits with this. I would advise most of you probably go M95. You know, it can take M100. Just remember, you're going to wear things out sooner and have to replace things sooner. So if you're okay with that, go to M100. You sure can. And it's cool that there's some good spring options on Amazon. Of course, they're listed for airsoft, but they are identical. And you can go ahead and order those in there. Most springs are under $10. Okay, you know, anywhere from $9 to $10 it seems for M95 or M100. And Chicon and Lancer Tactical both have an array of spring sizes on there. So that's what we got going on. Excited to put it together. And hopefully everything turns out like it should and works like it should. Because again, when you have these, you got to be able to be flexible when you're making mods and stuff. And I'm lucky enough to have extra parts around where I could switch it over and do something different, since I was already so far into the build. Comments, questions, post them below. Of course, like, subscribe, share my channel with your friends, and participate in those monthly giveaways where you can win over $200 in blasters accessories every month on my YouTube channel contests, typically towards the end of the month. Thanks for your support.